Who here has ever had a setback, hardship, or trial in their life? I know I have. Well, what if I told you that you could overcome every setback, hardship, and trial with your mindset? That through your mindset, you could easily achieve to be happy amidst all tragedy. You see, I used to resent the United States at one point in my life. I was born and partially raised for some of my life in Mexico. Growing up to my two loving parents, I was taught the value of family. I was very family-oriented, and as such, in common Mexican culture, it's normal that you bestow a form of a nickname. Mine was Indianita. Indianita takes my first name, Indiana, and adds Ita to create Indiana with love. Indianita was the nickname called out by my cousins as we played outside. I, in my Dora the Explorer dress, of course, my white sandals and my half-up, half-down ponytails. A perfectly normal outfit, I think, for a 6-year-old. Indianita was also called out by my grandmother as she prepared freshly made Mexican dishes and as I happily ate them at the kitchen table. Indianita was also called out by my grandfather as we picked fresh mangoes from our tree. You see, each one of these components has contributed to who I am as an individual, who I am as a member of my family, who I am as a Mexican citizen. Well, as much as I would like to say that every single aspect of my life in Mexico was beautiful and sentimental about my family, unfortunately, it was not always like this. You see, the Mexican cartel wars began. Cartel members began fighting over territory. And as such, they wanted to assert dominance and power through violence and terrorism. The humble home of my abuela, the one where I used to eat and spend time to every single weekend, soon became the place where I would hear gunshots almost every single night. The streets that I would drive by almost every day would soon be the places where I would see cartel victims hanging from overpass ledges, oftentimes cardboard signs taped behind them, indicating that the violence will continue until the citizens obey the cartel's demands. This is a strict reality in a third world country, and as such, still being young, I could barely understand what was happening. I could barely understand life and death, the violence I was experiencing. And as such, I compartmentalized this in the back of my mind and kept it under lock and key until I was old enough to understand. Well, my parents, fully understanding this, brought me to the United States. I was brought here, and I had to adapt to an entirely new culture, language, environment. Going from seeing my family members every single weekend to only seeing them a few times every couple of years was a big change to me and my identity as Indianita. I felt resentment to the United States. I felt sadness, anger, loneliness, as I was and still am the only person in my family aside from my parents to be here. Now, in the United States, I felt this way for so long. The United States encompassed all these negative feelings, while Mexico, on contrast, encompassed my family, the happiness, everything I felt at once. But what if I told you that while these experiences have greatly affected me, they have benefited me at the same time? You see, resilience is the opportunity to adapt to negative change. In society, it is common that resilience is normally meant to be moving on, forgetting our trials. But what if I told you that you could adapt your trials to your mindset? Use your mindset as your tool, apply it as an asset to your success. You see, you can take sadness and despair and turn it into happiness, tragedy to triumph. For me, from resenting this country to loving it. My experience served as a guide point for combating my future trials. And to this day, I still use my mindset as my emphasis and basis for every single thing I go through. But before I dive into this mindset, we must first come to terms with one simple matter. Everything that has happened to you in a setback, trial, or hardship is most of the time unchangeable. You see, I will never have the opportunity to live in Mexico once again. I will never have the opportunity to be with my family the way I once was. I will never have the opportunity to go to my grandmother's home every single weekend. But simultaneously, I have understood that I can't change these trials. I can't change these aspects. But I have also applied them to the sunset I watched earlier today. I will never see again. The sunrise I may watch tomorrow will never occur again. Each passing second that goes by is a second that is used that you will never be able to repeat again. Why will I use the rest of my life, my way forward, by always looking back? Always looking back at my tragedy, my suffering, and my pain. Well, by this contrast, I decided that I wanted to stop drowning in this suffering, wanting to stop drowning in my tragedy, wanted to stop drowning in my fear, my fear of abandonment, my loneliness, my homesickness, every single negative aspect of my life, and wanted to start appreciating what I do have. See, if I am here, I can't focus on what I once had. I need to focus on what I currently have. And what I currently have in the United States, I have come to appreciate. I've come to appreciate the countless opportunities this country has given me. The opportunity to fight for my success, for my future, and for my purpose, all of which I would never be able to do in my home country. Now, I have come to adapt here, and I've come to adapt who I am in Mexico as Indianita, as a member of my family, as a Mexican citizen by birth, and who I am now, as an American high school student, as a high school student who wants to pursue the American dream and receive a college education. I now see that if I keep on living for today, rather than living for yesterday, I find fulfillment. I find fulfillment in who I am and in my purpose. I see that, unlike the cartel, resilience is my power. I want to be defined by my success rather than be defined by the byproducts of my limitations, of situations I will never be able to control nor change. If I leave here today, I want to leave everybody here with one clear message. Each one of us is the